Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to mine and Kat Valor's, I think that's correct English, launch party live for Sincerely Departed. This is our first baby.
Yeah. It's here. It's my first baby because I've never done an anthology before. This is my first one.
Did I not realize that? I don't think I realized that. Really?
Yeah.
You do so much. I guess I just felt like you probably did.
No.
I didn't even think about that. Or I didn't even realize that. Well, oh, what an honor. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our zombie epistolary horror anthology is out. Link in the description to go get. It's available in ebook and physical, but I promise you, you want the physical.
You want the physical. The physical worked a lot better. As the formatter, usually there are a lot of benefits, just like it's pretty, you get the back cover, but it functions better as a physical book.
Yeah, no, it does. Kat is always not as celebratory about her stuff as she should be. She did an incredible job with this. I mean, it's and this isn't the one I have isn't even the final. I think you have the final.
I think so. I
Yeah.
don't, because I picked up the wrong one. I have 3 editions of this sitting in my house now. I'm holding the wrong one up.
It's okay. The front didn't change too much.
Yeah, the front's the same.
Does your back is your back blank right here, or does it have the
It does have the
So this is the very first one we ever did.
That's the first one. This is the middle one. I don't know where I put my final. Oh, you know what? It's downstairs because I was taking pictures of it with CJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely one I think you want to have the physical of. It's got I mean, there's something in here for yeah, Kat did an incredible job. She's not giving herself enough props, but she did a great job on this. Quite obviously more than I would have been able to do. Me.
I'm honestly surprised I was able to do as much as I was. And it's one of those things, because I was going through the final, and there are so many little teeny tiny nitpicky things. I honestly think if you left me alone with these 15 stories, I could have just been formatting them forever, you know? There are so many just little things where it's oh, what if I did this? I could have tried this and this and this. And but I'm really proud of how it came out. The finals
100% you should be. And I am as well. My kind of my inspiration for wanting to even do a project like this actually doesn't even come from a love of zombies. It comes from a love of video games, found footage style horror and things like that. I don't even think I knew there was a word for it. I think until you told me that it was called epistolary. I didn't know that. I had never thought about it in terms of that. I just thought it would be a cool concept to tell stories of a zombie apocalypse through those styles: text messages, social media, letters, emails, fill in all the blanks, there's everything you could possibly imagine in this anthology. And you are the perfect person to do any project. I would love to do any project with you, but zombies were your whole personality for a chunk of your life.
Yeah. Also, side note, how I learned the word epistolary meant this kind of content, because I knew that it was a word. I really thought that it was a very niche thing, because I thought epistolary only applied to letters. So and it was actually, I did an epistolary novel and was submitting it, and someone brought it to my attention. They're you keep saying found file, and I was well, yeah, because it's not just letters, it's other stuff.
Right.
And they're no, you you might need to look that up. And I was I think I don't know. But no, it does. It covers all of this kind of weirdness, which is it's such a good subsection of horror fiction, I think. And I like that you mentioned video games too. We got a lot of, and you can see that, I think, in the ones that we selected, there's a pretty high percentage of video game inspired zombie epistolary stuff going on in here, which is great. Because that's not something that we put in the call anywhere. That was just
not at
on
all.
the same wavelength.
Yes, and it's perfect because when I like stuff like this is like how many indie horror games specifically are told through shit like that, where you're finding
So
clues,
many.
pages of diaries, and finding emails, it's um and it's such a cool way to tell a story. And granted, especially in the video game sense, it doesn't always work, but I think it was a pretty cool concept to try to tell the and to be honest, I know I say this every time I do any type of anthology, but I am always blown away with people's level of creativity and the shit that, I mean, the stuff people come up with is so crazy and far surpasses anything I could have thought we would get. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Um, so we do have a couple of things we'll read from authors that are in our TOC for Sincerely Departed, as well as a couple of videos that we were able to get together. But I thought we would start with maybe our stories and where our stories kind of came from, and what that inspiration is. And I don't have a preference on who goes first. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Go first, yeah.
Okay. What's the title of mine again? I named it last. Oh,
Uh,
Being a Better
be
Human.
I know, I was, like, I was formatting the finals, and I was like, "Angel, I need a name for your story, please."
It's
I've
so
gotta put a
ridiculous.
title in.
I'm like, oh fuck, you do need a title. I don't, titles are like the last thing. Like unless it has to do with a cover. And then I'm much quicker at titles. If I'm like, I want this to be on the cover. So the cover's done and I have it as my muse, as it were. And so yeah, I you had to message me and be like, okay, but also like it has to have a title. So mine is called being a better human. My short story actually started out as I've talked about this before on the channel. My origins in writing, as far as with other, like in a bigger world sense, not just stuff I wrote for myself, is I started out with like RPG role playing online in group forums and stuff, where you create characters and then you have those characters interact with other characters. It's like D&D, but there's no dice. Like you create stories with other people, and I've been doing that since 2003. I still do it. I just don't have the time for it that I used to. And I had always wanted to do like a group story about zombies, and I had broken down it into sections. And the character that I knew I wanted to write, and this veers a little bit different than in the short story, but was this character who was trapped alone and was kind of dealing with these things that she had done prior to the apocalypse, as it were. In the original story, she was a drug addict, so I kind of veered away from that a little bit. And but yeah, it started as a story that I had always wanted to do, because it was almost a great setting to do it in a way that where she's writing out these things, and she's dealing with the reality of who she was before and trying to do better now. And as she's writing these thoughts out, she's realizing that day to day she's not really the better person she wanted to be. And then and there's some other things to it, but that's kind of where mine started. I like the idea. One of my favorite things about anything zombie related is dissecting the human state. When we're put in times of crisis, who are you really? And are you really all of those things you thought you would be before the crisis happened, or the apocalypse happened in this case? And those make, to me, some of the best zombie stories. I like the fun, goofy, gory ones too, but I just really like taking a like humanity and like shoving it under a microscope, so to speak. And so that's kind of where my story came from.
That's
Your
yeah,
turn.
I think it comes through, in your story.
Oh, good.
Um,
That's good.
my
Otherwise, all of that was gibberish.
mine, is not nearly as exciting. I talked about it in the introduction a little bit, like, the first novel that
Yeah.
I ever wrote,
Yeah.
I was epistolary zombie fiction. That was just, like, where I started, um,
Yeah.
and it was a story that for a long time it was like, because I wrote it, I was a kid essentially. I wrote it in like middle school, and then it was like one day, like I'll edit it and publish it or whatever. And it was one of those things that like after I got into writing professionally, it was like, maybe one day I'll go back and I'll redo it because the whole
Yeah.
thing was bad. Like, I don't want to publish or edit this, but like one day maybe I'll redo it and I'll get it done. And it was just something I kind of moved away from.
Yeah.
But that universe, like that was based off of, that I set that story in,
Mm.
ended up like one of my first published short stories, like my first published piece of flash fiction that was under my own name, kind of took place in that same universe. And like the first pro contract sale I ever made was like in that universe. And it was one of those things. And that Drabble piece, it was published through Shacklebound Books
Mhm.
a few years ago, and it was called The Last Lesson of the Last Linguist. And I just really, really fell in love with that character, but I only had her for like 100 words.
Right.
So such as the curse of Drabbles.
Sure.
But so when we were talking about doing epistolary zombie fiction, it was like, I think I would like to go back and I would like to, kind of flesh that out, because it's like that piece was kind of a hypothetical, like, what if I died? What would happen to all of this information that I have that's very specific to this apocalypse, you know?
Right.
Um, and so
Yeah.
when I was like sitting down to write something that was epistolary zombie fiction, it was like, I think I would really like to revisit, into the, like, it's no longer a hypothetical situation. Like, what if she is actually dying,
Yeah.
and what would matter more to her? Would it be kind of like the information that's about to be lost, or
Right.
would it be, coming to terms with the things in her life that have been important to her as an
Yeah.
individual? And so, yeah, that was where I didn't think too much about what I wanted to write about. I kind of had this one ready to go. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I had to revamp a lot of what I wanted to do because I never got to do any of the actual writing. It was just plot points. But yeah, I think it's been interesting because I talked about this. I had the pleasure of going on for a winterview with Catherine Silva back in March, I think, or April. I can't remember which one. And one of the things I talked about, like for the reason that I love subgenres like this, is because of how personal they feel. Like when you're reading through something that someone else has written or logged or whatever. Again, fill in the blanks. It just feels way more personal. You feel more involved in what's actually going on than reading something that has already happened or reading from a different perspective. And I've like, I don't know. I love that this was like our first project together. I think it takes like our interest as two individuals and then some of our shared stuff. And it's just like the perfect mesh
yeah.
of like all of those things. So I'll read the back and then I'll play maybe one of the videos that we have from one of the authors. So also, I would like to say that's the hardest fucking part about writing is this stuff. Like, well, I don't know everything. Can I just put everything and like that just be the back? Like, does that work? Like, I don't know. This was so difficult. I just wanted to say that because I was like, I don't know. Does this sound okay? Does this sound
I,
stupid? I don't know.
It's a big reason why you and I make a good team, because if I am left unattended, I will just come up with any reason not to. I remember when I was doing I did the surprise physical release of Monomore to
Yeah,
test whether or not we could print the text
the
formatting in this.
texting. Yeah,
And I was like, here's the page count. I sent it to Ruth Anna, who had done the front for me.
yeah.
And I sent her money and I was like, here's the page count. Can I get a full wrap on this? And she was like, yeah, sure. And then she was like, what's your blurb text for the back? And I was like, my what? And she's like, for the back? And I was like, oh, I'm not doing that. And she's like, well, what do I put on the back? And I was like, I don't care. Like, that's whatever you want. What can I put on there that's not blurb text?
Oh
She's like,
no.
and she's like, I don't know if you're kidding or not. And I was like, no,
It's
I'm
so
anything else.
difficult.
Don't make me. Like,
It's so hard. I think it's hard in general, regardless. It's so hard to summarize. Um, Especially with things like that where you're like with Monomore specifically, where you're like, you really can't say anything. Like it
can't
really is
say
just sit
anything.
down and read it, you know? But I feel like it's a whole different type of difficult when it's like an anthology because you're like, I don't fucking know. And there's like how do you summarize without leaving stuff out? Without, like, I don't know. So anyway, this
And
is what I
it's
came up with.
with like
Um,
with like self collections, right? It's like you
Oh
choose
yeah.
like your 3 craziest stories and you're like, you
Didn't
do
you?
one sentence for each of them, toss it
That's
on
good
the
to know.
back as like a soup or whatever, and like it'll come out okay. It'll be fine. But like for an anthology, it's
It's
like
hard.
because each person is only connected to one story, it's like it's really hard to kind of figure out what you can and can't put on
Yeah.
there. So you did a great job though.
I I'll take it. I'll take the compliment. I'm gonna remember the notes about the 3 stories though, because I'm like
yeah.
coming up with
So you'll
that for all the little voices. I don't fucking know. And then there's like I love that there are authors who like just don't even do one too. That happens. Like
it
there's
does.
authors that are like, no, they just don't do a blur.
And
They're like trigger warnings are in the front or the back. Otherwise, figure it out.
And it's super effective. Like with Monomore, I had a bunch of people that like flipped it over and they're like, "Oh, this is so intriguing and mysterious." And I was like, "Yeah, that's right. I'm intriguing and mysterious. It's not lazy." Like I'm so
Oh
hyped
my
up.
god, I love that. That's so funny. Yeah, so this is what I came up with. Video archives of savagery, heartbreak, and survival. Letters tucked away, concealing secrets and whispers of ruin. That's pretty good. I remember writing that. The zombies have come. The world is in a state of devastation. All that remains is written records, puzzle pieces from experiences all over the world, stories about government, stories about loss and love, stories about human nature. What now? To what ends will humans go to hold onto their humanity, and how many of them so easily let it go? Stitched together, I like that part. Stitched together by the brains of Cat Valor and Angel Krause. Yeah. I like that. Letters tucked away, concealing secrets and whispers of ruin. I read that. That doesn't even sound like something I'll write. Anyway, it's great though. It works because I was surprisingly able to come up with things for most of the different types of things that are. Oh my
Yeah.
god. And yeah, oh, really quick before we jump to authors and stuff, I wanted to talk about the cover. So
Oh,
this
yeah.
is the cover. Sincerely Departed, an epistolary zombie horror anthology. Um, Anyone not new to Cat or I probably knows who did the cover for this. Um, and yeah, it's Grim Poppy. Uh, she we love her. Like
We
she's so
do.
great at like and this I think I don't know how you are with like your individual. I very rarely ask for changes. I'm like usually like whatever she does, I'm usually like, yep, perfect, I'm obsessed, whatever. But like we had just very specific things for this that we were trying to get a lot in, and we were trying to get the and like, and we both were like we sent this back a couple of times just for little things that ended up making a huge difference. Like the hand was initially flipped and put on the other side of the page. I think we went back and forth a little bit about what the sheet and the typewriter was gonna. I don't know. Like we went through
Yeah.
a few things with this, but I think it turned out beautifully.
It turned out so well, and I remember, Chrissy was doing a different live show, talking about cover art with Ruth Anna Evans, and I was in that live, and I was like she was talking about commissions, and she's like, "One thing is that I feel like sometimes people are afraid to send stuff back," and it was while we were working on the cover for this, and I was like, "I'm so sorry we sent it back so many times," and she's like but she's such a sweetheart, she was laughing about it, she's like,
She,
"No, like,
she,
that's the thing I'm trying to encourage, like,
yeah,
those were all easy fixes, like,
yeah.
I'd rather know than not know." It was like but I did feel bad because she was in that live, like, the time we had sent it back twice in that same day, and I was like, "Oh, no."
Uh, it was hard though. We were trying to make sure that this was what do I want to say? Different. We
Yeah.
wanted it to be its own thing. And so, but we also needed it to be very clear what it was about, aside from the title. And it was so funny because the process for coming up with the title for this was so funny because Kat sent me like 15 puns, and it was, she's like dying laughing about them. And then and finally I'm like, okay, like yeah, it's funny, but also like I really like this one. and and it's I love I don't know. It just seemed to come together so well.
It did. I'm really glad we went with this one.
Yeah.
For the most part, don't even remember what the other zombie puns were. The only other one that I really, the only other, like, I kind of miss
Yeah.
it was 28 pages later.
That was
I
a good
thought
one.
was just like, that one, because it's like so specific, it's like, that's bordering on,
It's
like,
skirting the line there. Yeah.
it might be a little bit too dangerous, but yeah, it was a fun day with the zombie puns.
Yes, it was. So, and I think you had been up particularly longer than normal too. So you had said like, well, I'm like, just send them to me anyway. And then we ended up going with one that worked. But I think like, cause I, I don't know, like sometimes I can be like really quick with titles for stuff, but like when it's such a unique thing, it's like, I don't know, like I spaced, but I think this turned out, I think Sincerely Departed 100% works. It works really well. Okay, so I have a couple of videos. I gotta scroll down and find them really quick. I have a couple of videos from some contributors, and then we've got some we call them quotes, I guess. Like we just have a couple of thoughts that people sent in about their stories that we'll read. So here is the first video.
Hi everyone, my name is Madeline White. I'm a farmer and a fiber artist living in Hudson Valley, New York. If there are three things I love besides sheep and my horses, they would have to be zombies, finding recipes on Pinterest, and really grim shit. So I wanted to combine those three loves here for you today in this piece, which is what I like to think would happen if a hardcore food blogger type had to get a little bit scrappier in order to survive the zombie apocalypse. I had a lot of fun writing it. I hope you have a lot of fun reading it. And thank you so much for your support of my work and of the work of all of us for Sincerely Departed. Thank you.
That's sweet, funny,
So nice.
and grim and really grim shit.
It came through. It all came through in the
Yes.
story.
You know, it's funny is like I can't remember 100% who wrote like title wise.
Mhm.
But then like once they say just enough, I'm like, I remember like everything that I read. Like I'm like, oh yes, I know which one this one was. Yeah, so that was Madeline White. Which I believe Madeline White, which one were they in? One of the bathroom books, either one or two. So a cool get to work with it's always cool to work with people again. Especially, you know, a all-inclusive voice in the horror community. That's cool. Yeah, so I have another one. This is Casey Masterson, who we know more or less pretty well. We interact with her a decent amount, I think. But anyway, she sent in her thoughts too.
Hi, my name is Casey Masterson, and I am the author of one of the stories in this anthology called Project Lazarus. And I was told to make a video about how that came to be. I carry around a notebook. I'll show you. A notebook that is filled with ideas, and I cross them off when I use them. And that one was on there for a while actually, and I've been looking for some way to use it. The original intention was sort of a play on Flowers for Algernon, who I can't remember who wrote the original, but it was supposed to be a play on that, and it sort of morphed into something different. And I've had a lot of fun writing it. I hope you have a lot of fun reading it. Thank you so much.
That one is so Casey, I also carry around a little notebook for ideas. Mine is
Yeah.
not nearly as nice, but yeah, that is I love I maybe because I also carry around like the little idea notebook, but it's
Yeah.
very satisfying to me to be able to fit one of those ideas for a call. So I'm
Yeah.
really glad to hear that our call like
Was that for
took
someone
one of
else?
those ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would also like to say we didn't bully anyone. Casey
No,
said I was told
I
to
was
make him.
told.
We're just
Yeah, I like
bullies.
that
Like
authority.
I did put that it could be written, like if they, if they weren't comfortable, because I did that for, I think, livestock as well, where it was like just, thoughts, because that's the best way, because there's too many people to do everybody talking about it. But the authors are, the gold, the bread and the butter of the anthology. So it's important for them to have their say and their part in the live that celebrates their work. So anyway, but I just thought it was funny when Casey was like, I was told to make a video, like.
That's good.
We asked very politely. Wasn't forced, I don't think. I have another one. Maybe. Okay, there we go.
Hi, I'm Andy Rao, the author of When It's Done, one of the stories in Sincerely Departed. I was curious to see how an event as epic and terrifying as a zombie apocalypse might be conveyed through a medium that's almost comically mundane by comparison. Software update notes. Specifically, update notes for a zombie-themed video game. I wanted to see what kind of weird little window into a little corner of the world these patch release notes would provide. In my story, the game designers decide to try and make a difference in the only way they can by continuously updating their game to match the apocalyptic state of the world outside, using information that their players are reporting to them about the evolving zombie situation. I really hope you enjoy it along with all the other amazing stories in Sincerely Departed. Please share your thoughts about When It's Done, and have a great time reading Sincerely Departed. Thanks.
Yes, this was a little peek behind the curtain here. There were a handful that were both like on our short lists from the beginning, and then we each had like a couple stories that we championed
Yes.
to like fill out the last handful.
Yeah.
This one just like really spoke to my computer nerd heart. I was always that person that was reading the patch notes for games when I was in like the height of my gamer era, and this one just chef's kiss. Like, it's like, this is it. Out of all of the stories, this one felt the most like it was a real document from a zombie apocalypse. Like I was so sold on this one for that reason, because like it does have that kind of like mundane, here's the stuff we've got to get through element to like this really grand scale of a zombie apocalypse going on.
Yeah. And I have to say, I think the other thing is it's very, it's pretty much like he said, it's very, it feels very realistic in the sense of like, what else do you do? Like if you are somebody who's not out doing, I don't know, the Rick Grimes thing and walking around and doing stuff in other buildings, for a whole season, it's, what are you doing? And it's like, the only thing to do is things that you already know how to do, things you're already in the process of doing, something just to take your mind off of it. It felt very human. It felt very realistic for those reasons, because it's like, well, this is what we have to offer. And then like the updates too, with like the different people associated, how it like kind of went through, I won't say too much of that, but it goes through all of that stuff. Yeah, it felt very grounded in reality. It was a really, really cool thing to read.
Yeah.
I last minute remembered I had one more video that sent in a separate chain. So while that was playing, I was downloaded it, converted it, and uploaded it to show. Because I just remembered, I was like, I could have sworn I had 4. And I was like, 1, 2, 3. That's not 4. And then I remembered that it was because it was sent in a separate email chain. So I didn't want to miss it though. So anyway, so this is the last video clip before we get to like the written thing. So here's our last one.
Hey everybody, thank you for coming out to support Sincerely Departed. Cat and Angel have whipped up something really cool for you to devour, and pun intended, of course. My name is Patrick Tumblety, and my story that is included in the collection is called #4Life, and is about a young man coming to terms with the zombie apocalypse through social media, specifically something that is formatted like Twitter. And I got the idea at the time of the call. I was playing a lot of Overwatch, which is a basically team-based fighting game. And you wait in a lobby before getting connected to the actual team. So you wait for other people to connect, and it pairs you up. And I thought to myself that I can get so consumed with that game sometimes, like hours go by, that the only way I would know that anything is going on in the outside world is if the wait time to pair me with other players starts to get longer and longer and longer. Like if there was a zombie apocalypse or something really bad was happening in the world and people weren't able to log on, I would only notice because of how long that wait time would be. And that idea really like stuck with me. That sometimes we can get so consumed in what we're doing, especially with social media, that the only way we would notice that if anything is going on is if our social media friends start to drop off and not show up where they usually are. And I think it's really interesting. I'm all for social media. I'm not a person that's against it, but with any other tool in life, there's pros and cons. And I think sometimes, with, TikTok and Twitch and Twitter and all these other things, we can get so consumed with our online life that stuff that's going on right outside could kind of just swing right by us. And I think it's really interesting. I think it's a cool new social dynamic that we can explore, especially in horror. And so that's why I wrote this story. I thought it was really interesting to see a side of it just through social media, as though we were looking at something 100 years later and seeing what people were going through minute to minute during a time of crisis. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy the whole collection. Like I said, it's something really special. And I just want to say very special thanks to Cat and Angel for including me in it. I feel really honored to be in it. And I can't wait to hear what you all think about it. So be well. Remember, if there's a zombie apocalypse, machetes don't need reloading, so always carry one. And I hope you enjoy. Have a good one.
I love that. I love that Patrick came in with like the advice too of like, oh, and by the way,
Yeah.
I'm gonna show this to you. Make sure you see this really quick. Andy says, "Thanks for the kind comments on my story and honor to be included. It's an honor to work
Aw.
with you, man."
Yeah. So honored to work with all of these authors, and
That's
especially like because this was my first anthology. This was my first time editing. I came into this actually not 100% sure that I could edit stories or that I could format epistolary fiction. So the fact that everyone, especially you, Angel, trusted me to like come in and
of
work on
course.
this.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew he'd figure it out. I wasn't worried for a second, but I know at certain points it was hard to convince you of like,
Yeah, I was pretty worried. And Patrick's actually was a really good example of that because
Yeah,
it was on our short list. It was one of the first ones we got. Like it was
I
really
think
early in
so.
the
Yeah.
queue. And it
Yeah.
had been on the short list the entire time, and I kept coming back to it and being like, "I don't know if I can do tweets." Like, and that
Yeah.
it's like it was in the call, like, we suggested that people do tweets, but we only had, like, 2 or 3 stories in the entire bunch that actually had tweets in them, and it
Yeah.
was like, "If I don't take this, I never have to learn how to format a tweet." Um but and we talked about this too, where it's like I felt like as we got down to those last couple stories of like what we wanted to include and what we felt like was missing, um, Pat's story had like a very different feel than the other ones. I think the collection is a lot more well-rounded for having
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think yeah, I think like I know everybody that does an anthology says this, but I genuinely believe this. I think there really is like everything here. Like as far as like conceptually or like there's just a lot. There's love stories, there's family, there's like neither. There's scientist stuff. There really is like just a bunch of different things. Like it really is very well rounded. And I had to say, and I say this all the time too, but it's never easy to turn away stories because
Oh.
ultimately we knew what we could do. This was a paid call, so there's a limit
Yeah.
of what we could do, and so it was very like it wasn't easy. There were
No.
times where our friendship survived it. We're good.
We're fine.
But it was one of those things where it's like there were some that we were like in the same space on. But then there were some where we both kind of had to sacrifice, or we both had to kind of be like, no, like for real, this is like the one I'm not willing to miss out on or whatever. And it's never easy to turn away anybody that submits, even if hypothetically you just absolutely hate the story, which wasn't the case, I don't think, with any of these. But
No.
it was not an easy process because there were so many cool things sent to us, and it's like you want to keep them all, like what's an animal that hoards? I don't know.
Dragon.
A dragon. That'll work. Of course you're gonna say dragon. Yeah, but it was a very hard thing. And I think for the most part, authors who submit to anthologies, I think for the most part, they do understand that that's not like an easy task. It's literally it's my least favorite thing ever. Like, with the werewolf one that's coming down the pipes, like I literally put that shit off until I just could not put it off anymore because I hate doing it. I hate telling
Yeah.
that's like how one of the reasons I ended up with 2 of the bathroom books was because I was like, I'm just gonna do whatever I want. I can't turn away this many. Oh, hey Patrick, my first thought when I finished the story was, no,
Yeah, you were right. That was, and that's on me because it was like when we were talking about posting the call, it was like what kinds of formats like would be fun modern epistolary things to have, and we came up
Yeah.
with a list. And Angel was like, can we do all of these?" And I was like, "Yeah," but I was secretly kind of hoping that Twitter wasn't going to be because it scared me. It was really intimidating. But I like, as someone that does a lot of modern epistolary, I was eventually going to have to learn how to format tweets anyway. And now, I feel like I'm good at it.
You got
Like,
all your
I can
practice.
do that.
Yeah, you got all your practice in.
Yeah. And
I
we
was
were talking
laughing.
about this too,
Yeah.
just like a couple weeks ago, because on Twitter it was like, you apologized, I think, Patrick, for the formatting on that one. And it was like, actually, when we had the issues with KDP and I had to reformat, and like after I had been through the physical proof and everything, because it had taken me so long to figure out how to do hashtag for life, it was the only one that did not need touched in the in the second round of edits. Like I had it down by the end.
Yes. He says, now you're a pro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm telling you, you really did do a great job. I can't wait for people to have this. Like, I think, I don't know. Like, I look at it all the time. That's why it's sitting next to my computer. I didn't just magically bring it. It's been there the whole time. And there's just, I don't know. I'm overwhelmed with like how fucking cool this turned out. Like, not that I had doubts, because I didn't. I knew it was gonna be fucking cool. But when you have it, to like look at, it's something else altogether. Do you want to read your first author piece, or you know what I mean, whatever quote?
Yeah. Our first author submission quote.
Yeah.
This is from Maria Hossein, who wrote Leak. I've always been fascinated by epistolary format. The saying "dead man tells no tales" inspired me. That what if a dead man does tell their own tales? That's how my story came to be. The inspiration behind behind the environmental disaster came from the Bhopal gas tragedy, which occurred in India in 1984, but unfortunately not many people outside of India are aware of it. The use of the double epistolary formatting was something I had a bit of trouble with, but it was still a fun process. And that's true, because Leak is the recorded, it's the transcribed recordings of like primary accounts. So it is double epistolary.
Yeah, but it's
Um,
yeah.
Hauntingly beautiful story.
Yeah, and this was one of the ones where we talked about it because it is such a different take on the subject matter.
Yeah.
Like vastly different from at least anything I've ever seen, read, heard, talked about. Like, I don't know of another story that exists like this in the scope of the zombie subgenre. So it was really unique. Yeah, so my first one is from author T.T. Madden. The story was Gregory Gwynn and the Blight Hand Knights. Personally, I've always been a huge fan of epistolary and found footage type stories. They always feel so grounded and real, and especially forbidden, which for me is part of what makes them so enticing. You feel like you're getting away with something by experiencing them, and experiencing zombies through that lens, something that's been done to death, pun intended, felt very refreshing. Secondly, I was also really excited by how many names I was unfamiliar with when the TOC was announced. With this coming out, I feel like my horizons are about to expand, and I'll have a whole new group of authors I can follow and see the other amazing stories they come up with. I hope readers are as excited for that as I am. Thank you for saying that. I love that, because one of the things I have strived to do is, like, in general, me, as far as like things that I'm looking for when I'm reading a story, is a name I've never heard of before. Because so many and this is the case with the bathroom books as well. A lot of those are first time publications, and there is nothing, in all honesty, as somebody putting anything like this together, that will make me personally more happy than someone saying this is the first time I've got something published. Like, it is like, it's to be able to work with people that like maybe don't have anything else on their own, or have only been able to do the short story submissions, or anything like that. It's super meaningful. So I love that, that authors can feel that way too, that they get something out of that, because that is definitely something I want to continue to strive to do, is give the people who aren't getting the chances.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you want to read your next one?
Yeah, my next one is from Andrew Harrell, who wrote Trixie. I'm assuming is how we're supposed to be saying that. That's how
That's
I've
how
been
I've been
saying it in
saying it
my
in my
head
head.
while I edited it. Trixie was actually the second story I wrote for Sincerely Departed. While I liked the first one, it just didn't quite capture the right balance of loneliness and confusion. I wanted to write something different from letters, and it got me thinking about other ways to tell a story: records, computer logs. Slowly, all of those thoughts combined, and Trixie was created. I loved the final story, and I was so pleased Cat and Angel picked it. They sent some of the best feedback I've had on a short story.
Well, that's a shout to you, Kat.
Yeah, we went back and forth. So this was one of the easiest to format for me, I think, because I actually um have I don't want to say a similar project, but I did have an epistolary project that was formatted one for one, pretty much the same as this. So it was like this
Yeah.
one I was really confident, like reading through even before I think we had officially chosen this one. It was like, I can do this. This one's
Yeah.
gonna look really good.
Yeah.
But this one I think was the hardest one for me to edit, because it's written in such like, there were a lot of individual lines that I really liked, but making feedback was really hard, just because the way the story is structured,
It's like,
changing one line is like a domino effect, where it
yeah,
kind of changes like the
right.
like 10 or 15
Yeah.
lines after that, and it was like,
Mhm.
so this was a challenge to edit, and I'm glad that the suggestions like were helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it can be hard to give feedback that comes across as helpful and warm, Like,
Yeah.
I think that that's a very which you've edited and formatted other things for me, and I've always thought, I mean, obviously we have a friendship, but we have a professional relationship too, and I think that that's something that you do really well, is you're able to give the feedback without making the person you're giving the feedback to feel this big, which is important.
I think that comes from not having much of an editing background. Like and I don't know if this is just like, I feel like professional editors sometimes are like, "Hey, you're wrong. You're bad at grammar." And
Yes.
I also, as a writer, know that I'm sometimes bad at grammar, so when I'm correcting other grammar, it comes more from like a position of like, "Is this right?" Like,
Yeah. 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 Um Yeah, so my next one is from S.C. Fisher, who wrote the story Dead in the Water. The moment I saw the call for this anthology, I knew I had to submit. Although I've been publishing horror for several years now, this is my very first foray into the world of zombies, which has absolutely left me craving more brains. I can't wait to share my little tale of tragic romance with you all, as well as read every other story by my amazing fellow contributors. This is an anthology I know I'm going to display proudly on my bookshelf for years to come, and I'm so grateful to Angel and Kat for allowing all of us this opportunity. These stories have bite. Will you let them sink their teeth into you?
Oh,
Yeah. I'm going to say this, but I have like another statement that's going to follow it. This was I will not accept not having this story. This was my story where I was like, I have to have this story. And I'm not saying that because Kat didn't like it. That's not why I'm saying it.
no.
I'm just saying that this was the story, though. You know, it's got a lot going on in it, but it was the story where I was like, I have to have this one, like from the store, like, and this was one too that turned out really cool because this is the one that you did the pictures for.
I was gonna say you did kind of have to upsell me on this one, and it wasn't about the quality of the story, but it was about we were
The
in kind of a
visuals.
weird position with this one because as stated at the beginning of this, it was like I'm not going to do any like custom art for this. Like if people submit art, I will be happy to include it, but it's going to be like a huge margin error, like if I have to do it myself because I'm not familiar with the sizing and I'm not good at graphics. I don't want that responsibility. And this was a weird one because it was the only one that we got with art, but it would like the way that the art was done, it was done in program that was not compatible with my program to format. So it was like, and we talked about that a lot when we did this because it's like I can't, like this breaks the rules that we had. Like I really don't want to take this one
Yeah.
because I just was so afraid of how like that ticket and the newspaper were
The
gonna look.
newspaper. Yeah. It came out great.
Those scared the hell out of me. Like,
And again, our friendship survived this
and
project.
it survived.
We're
Yeah,
doing
we're
fine.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like a bit of a fan of, I think, of SC Fisher in general, but I loved it. And I'm honestly like, there's so many things that I'm a sucker for in general. This whole subgenre we're talking about right now, I'm a sucker for it. But anything with like a queer love story, I'm like, I can't, I have to, it just hits me differently. And I just was like, this is so good. And it includes some poetry things and it just had so many things in it. And I just was like, oh, so good. So
That was the other thing. And I'm glad we ended up taking it because the graphics were a little bit of a headache, but I got through it. They look fine.
your head didn't explode.
My head didn't explode. It's okay. But I was also worried because we got a lot of romance stories for this.
We did.
And at the time, like I remember editing this story and being like, this is really good. But like while we were slushing for it, I was just like, so many love stories. But this, like, I'm glad that this was one of the ones we took because it's just,
Me too.
but it was like the most competitive sub genre
It
that we
was.
received
It was.
because we didn't want them all to be love stories. And
No.
that was like a big determining factor. Like after our first round of submissions was we had to go back through and it's like, you know, like half of these about our love stories and we
It's
can't have
hard.
that many.
And I think that's kind of a reoccurring thing I've noticed with doing anthologies in general is you'll always have like one thing where there's just like a lot of it. And then
Yeah.
it then makes those, like you said, a lot more competitive. Like, cause then you're like, okay, well, I can't have 10 of this same style, like same situation or same style or however you want to put it. Like, you know, it's very, it makes it harder to then pick through. And because you're like, well, I can only take so many of these.
And that was something when I sent out the rejection letters too. Like I think a lot of people thought that I was just kind of like humoring them or trying to be polite or whatever when I said like this ended up being the most competitive like
It's
kind
the
of
truth.
story.
Yeah.
But it was the truth. Like
Yeah.
a lot of like male sci-fi heavy love stories in this call that like I would not have predicted that was
I don't think I would
what
have
we got
either,
the most of.
actually. Yeah.
But
No.
there were a lot of them, and like I said that in a lot of the rejection letters where it was like we loved this, it was on the short list pretty much the whole time.
It just
We
came
just
down to we wanted
yeah,
everything to be so different. Yeah.
it
I
was a
think that
brilliant
just
back and
happens
forth.
every time you do a call because I
Yeah,
just think,
it does.
it's and it's not because it doesn't work. It obviously works. Like, I mean, The Walking Dead just got a whole ass spinoff off of it working. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so it works, but it's
it
yeah,
works.
yeah. To your point, it's trying to balance it because people say all the time, oh, like the anthology shaped into this other thing, and we were really clear from the beginning. We wanted it to be like a hodgepodge of stuff. We wanted to make sure it was um,
Yeah,
a
we
good
did.
mix of stuff. Okay, you want to read your next thing?
Yeah, my next one is from Sophie Ingley, who wrote Zombie Free Radio. Hi, my name is Sophie Ingley, and I'm the author of the story transcripts from Zombie Free Radio. I'm so happy to be a part of this wonderful anthology. I'm a huge fan of both zombies and epistolary stories, so writing for this call was just such a joy. Sorry, my arm is really itchy. Got scratched by some weird dude at the bus stop today. My head is kind of fuzzy too, like it's stuffed with cotton wool. Anyway, I'm sure I'll be fine. My thanks to Angel and Kat for having faith in my story. I so hungry. Is it hot in here? Where was I? Brave, braids, brains.
Sophie's always a joy to do anything with, to work with,
Yeah.
talk to. She's great.
And Sophie was the one too. We had talked about this because it was really early in the call, and we asked her for like a small rewrite where we had
Yes.
kind of wanted it to be formatted a little bit more ambitiously, and she like right away was like, I'd be willing to do that, and here it is, and she
Yeah,
got
she's
it right back.
yeah, she's such a yeah, she's just such a like a ray of sunshine in general. So I mean, I think we talked about like we know like at least Kat and I can't speak to everybody, but Kat and I never like shoot to upset people or piss people off or so there's always that thing of like wanting to make sure that you handle like any situation where you have to talk to someone in a potentially questionable situation of like, well, I don't want to do anything to like upset them. And she just like it didn't like she knew you were coming from because you were the one that reached out to her, I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
about the change. And yeah, and she just took it with stride. She was like, yeah, okay. Like, yeah, it was yeah, great experience. Sophie's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my last one that I have is from Emma Jamieson. Hope I said that correctly. The story name was Fodder. Um, we love stories about ordinary people in extraordinary situations, but what about those folks who don't lie inside the parameters of ordinary when it comes to these situations? How do they approach things? Is the need for survival the same, or is the need to indulge in their darkest desires stronger? I wanted to write a zombie yarn which was not so much focused on the zombies themselves, but perhaps about a journey of self-discovery when you are just as driven by instinct yourself. Hopefully, Fodder explores that and also gives you that delicious, unsettled feeling that crawls over your skin.
It does. Fodder was one of the ones.
Yeah.
That was my other big one where it was like, which ones can we not live without in this anthology? And Fodder was like, I'm like, this is the scariest one we've seen. Like, this one has been on my mind like all the way through the call. Just we've gotta.
Yeah.
There's some weird shit in here.
Yeah.
I was all about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and that one actually too, I feel like a lot of them are a little bit more obvious when they've been game inspired, but talking to Emma about this one like was also video game inspired, which I thought was interesting. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Very
uh
cool.
yeah. My last one from Tom Coombe, who wrote The Name of the Star was Wormwood. The Name of the Star was Wormwood sprang to life during a writing group back in 2021, sparked by the prompt except there is something in the water and you just drank it. The original version was under 1,000 words, confined to just one email from a slowly deteriorating narrator. Expanding it allowed me to explore some of my anxieties, pandemics past, present, and future, the stress of having aging parents, and favorite scenario as a horror writer, ordinary people on the edge of an apocalypse. The first shorter version appeared in a web publication that has since folded, so I'm thrilled it has found a home once more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Uh,
one, yeah, that one was pretty. I know I've said unique. I'm trying to think of like a synonym.
this
So I'm not
I think
saying the
has some
same
of the
thing.
most like creative zombie design.
Yeah, that's the creative. That's a synonym for unique. Okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It went in a direction I didn't fully anticipate.
Yeah.
You know, when you start it, I don't think from the first little bit that you would just be like, oh, like it takes a second to get to what it is that's actually happening, and it's very yeah. I liked it. I mean, yeah, it was. I mean, obviously we liked it, right? It's in the,
Yeah. It made it.
it's
Like
getting late. I don't know, like, but no,
uh,
yeah, that one was really cool too. I feel like that wasn't one that we had to argue.
no,
Not
we like both
argue.
put that one on the short list
I think we
and
did
just
too.
we didn't talk about it. It was like the second or third submission we got. We both put it on the short list. We didn't talk about it. And then like when we went to compile the first thing we did when we started was just like put in the ones that we both had shortlisted
Yeah.
that had and this one was on there and at no point were we like do we have too much of this like
No, because it
this
was
is
a
not a tonal
standalone. Like,
fit
yeah,
and it's
yeah,
our
no,
only full email one. It's got some of the weirdest zombies in it. Like this just it I don't think there was any point where we were not talking about having this in the anthology.
no, I don't think that ever happened because it genuinely like there was no grouping this could have gone into.
Right.
Yeah.
This one and Leak, I think, were like the two where it's like we really don't have anything like either of these two stories.
Yeah. 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 And I think even though we wanted different things and we wanted stuff to be, things that we hadn't seen before, read before, watched, whatever. Leak, I think, was one of the ones we talked about a little bit more in detail because it took some
We did.
swaying to make me go, okay, yeah, like this is definitely like when you put it like that, this is definitely a unique concept and we should have it in. So
That one
um
was really interesting for me because I like before even I found horror movies, I read a lot of stuff as a
mhm,
kid and
yeah.
like and even though it's not like it's an international story, but it's more inspired by Indian lore and stuff, but the kind of concept of a revenant spoke a lot to my childhood like fairy
I
tales where
gotcha.
this is how the dead were kind of portrayed um
Right.
which I thought and this it's also like that not that this was an inspiration for Leak because it wasn't, but it also really spoke to me as like a Dungeons and Dragons player because the voices of the dead thing is kind of a recurring mechanic that's in there. So this does feel like I do think it's our biggest stretch of like what is or is not a zombie because
Sure.
technically, you know,
Right.
like it's like right on that line, but it is I'm glad we have it. It's a different kind of story.
Yeah. Sophie says, "Thank you for having me. I can't wait to read this fab anthology." Hey,
I can't
Sophie.
wait for you to see it.
Yeah, it's Cat's labor of love. I got to do all the easy stuff.
That's true, but I came out of it knowing how to do all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, get ready, world.
Get ready. You're gonna have so many books that are formatted like tweets.
Yeah, no, I can't. I genuinely like. I kind of wrap us up here, I guess, now that we're reaching about an hour. But yeah, I mean, obviously, we recommend this. I think like it is definitely worth getting a physical of. Maybe we'll get to a place after it's been out for a little bit. Well, we'll buy up a bunch of copies and be able to do them for a little bit cheaper than they are on Amazon. But If anybody's watching that pre-ordered, thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, those are on their way to me when they get here. There'll be some extra things added to them, and I will get them mailed out ASAP. Contributors are next. Those will be ordered. Should be getting those ordered this week, and so they'll be here soon, hopefully. The problem is that I order them all as author copies, and Amazon sends me not this is not Kat's experience.
This is the
They-
exact opposite
They
for me.
send me proofs in a manner of 4 days, but author copies take weeks, and that's how I order them to get them for the wholesale price. So like the pre-orders and the contributors, like it may be 2 weeks before I get them, but anyway, I promise if you're a contributor, the package is worth it. I promise it's worth the wait. I know it's weird and it sucks to see people have it before you, but I promise it's worth it. My t-shirt is a hint at something. Well, minus the voices, but the design. We put a lot of love into the ideas for these, so I think you guys will really, really like them. Whenever those get out to you. So anyway, but yeah, no, I put a link to where you can get this in the description. Like I said, I hope that you'll consider getting a physical, but honestly, just read it. Even if you just get an ebook, I had cookie crumbs on it. Even if you get the ebook, that's great. These authors are insane. I don't know why we're not all like quitting our day jobs. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
not me. I don't really feel that way about me, but I feel like about everybody else. Sophie says, "Ooh, the anticipation, exciting." Yeah, I told Kat this forever ago. I want to be known for my contributor packages. Like, I want people to be like, I don't even know if I care about this call. I'm submitting for a chance to get a contributor box. Like, that's what I'm going for. So I go hard for the contributor boxes. It's important.
It works too, because like I wasn't sure if I wanted to do anything for the bathroom call. I was like, I don't know if I have anything original or weird to send to this. But then I remembered the livestock contributor package, and it's like, I have to try, right? Like,
Yeah.
gotta
Yeah.
be in on this.
And they're all different. Like I try really hard not to do the only ones that are similar is bathroom 1 and 2 for obvious reasons. But the sticker and bookmark designs were different, and they all got personal items, which will be something I continue to do as I do the other rooms. Got another one of those coming up. It's going to be like tomorrow, even though it's months away, but it feels like it's going to be tomorrow. But I think that the zombie ones, I think you guys are going to dig. And that's a group effort between me and Kat. I'm just saying me because that's what I want to personally be known for.
Yeah.
Oh, and I would also like to be known for being great to work with. That's important too. But
But
first,
mostly the contributor package.
So anyway, but yes, please go get a copy of Sincerely Departed. Support the authors. Go follow all of them if you're not
Yeah.
already. And yeah, let us know what you think when you get it. We welcome any feedback on this. And hopefully, the authors had a good enough experience that they'll work with us again.
I hope so.
We had Kat probably took a lot of headache medicine, but otherwise, fun experience.
Yeah. Definitely a learning experience. But that's the crazy thing, is that it was like I felt like I jumped into the deep end. I don't think I'm ever going to have like a first editing experience where I'm also trying to figure out the logistics of like
Yeah.
doing the formatting, which was a little bit scary, because it's like usually as a formatter, all of those decisions are made for me. But it like also being the person to choose the stories, it was like, oh no,
It's
what am I
literally,
doing, future Cat? Like,
yeah. But yeah,
but now I know how to do it. It's fine. It's all
gonna
good.
be, and now I can give you all the weird stuff, and you can do all the weird stuff.
I have one giant complaint, and I'm glad that I'm airing my grievances, like starting beef on our like release live stream here. But I did all of this. I was only allowed, because like formatting software, for those of you who don't know, is very like stringent and input based for the most part, unless you have one of the high quality like Adobe ones,
Right.
which crash my computer. I literally cannot run that on the tech that I have, because I tried. Believe me, I tried before we got into this. But like my formatting software, it's very input based. It's like, you put this here, here are your options, uh, and I had 6 fonts from a selection of like 20, 30 fonts, right?
Yeah.
The second, like, as soon as we got our approval for this, they dropped they dropped like over 3,000 different handwriting fonts, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
Oh,
what the
oh,
hell? Because that was like it was the hardest part of this, was going through and being like,
yeah.
how legible is this handwriting
Yeah.
compared to like
Yeah.
we had several meetings about like whether or not fonts could be read and stuff, because I was just working with nothing. And then once we got the proofs in, my formatting software is like, have all the handwriting fonts you want. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, we just got approval for the other ones. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's my formatting beef for the day. Like, Atticus hates me.
Also, we only got a couple days left of May, but May is Zombie Awareness Month, which was the whole
Oh,
reason we were shooting to get this out in May, is because May is Zombie Awareness Month.
yeah, happy zombie awareness.
Happy Zombie Awareness. Sophie says, absolutely, you're both awesome to work with. Oh, thanks, Sophie.
Oh,
That means
I love
so
working with
much.
Sophie.
I genuinely mean that. That means so much. I feel like we as an indie community just do not have enough of good people that work to do things like anthologies and stuff. So I would like myself and Kat and other people that we know that we work with very closely. We want to be that. So it's important to all of us. So yeah,
And I
so
think we're both working with Sophie, like, in upcoming stuff, right?
upcoming stuff. Oh,
Right?
yes, Sophie. This hasn't formally been announced, but it's okay.
Oh,
Or
okay.
no, did I announce it? I don't even know, Kat. I've been doing
I
so
don't
much shit. I
I'll be
did.
honest, I'm not even sure if mine's formally announced.
I did. So
We just
yes.
love
So
working with
Sophie
Sophie.
Sophie has a story in no, what is it called? Talon for you. The werewolf charity anthology, right? Does she have a story in that? I have no
I
idea. I
thought
think so.
so.
Yeah, I think she does. That table of contents has been announced. I was thinking it hadn't been, but it has. I just couldn't announce it until I forced myself to get through the rejections. They were very
Right.
difficult. So and yeah, so anyway, so yeah, so Sophie's in, so yeah. I'm
Me
a
too.
professional. I swear to God. Nobody Cat knows, because Cat and I talk every day, but I've been through the fucking ringer the last month, and the
It's
fact that
bad
I
stuff.
remember anything is just but
We're
yeah,
lucky we
Sophie
got
has,
you here for this.
yeah, and I think I messaged you on like Friday, and I was like, fuck, our live is on Monday. Like, I totally, oh Jesus. Anyway, but yes, Sophie has a story in Howlin for you, which is Howlin for How. It's very important.
Helen.
Howlin for you. It may or may not be based off Black Keys song lyrics. Anyway, it's a werewolf charity anthology. So she has a story in that as well. So yeah. Oh, sorry, shit. Sorry, I missed these. Kat will never want to work with me again. Not on epistolary anyway. No, just kidding. And straight prose for Carly from me next time.
Oh,
Yeah. Anyway, well, like I said, celebrate Zombie Awareness Month. Buy a copy of Sincerely Departed ebook. I think it's free on on Unlimited or whatever it's called, KDU. And yeah, check out the physical. We'd love for you guys to have that, because it's stunning, if we do say so ourselves.
and look at this back.
Yeah. Although, you know what's crazy, and only because I'm a super honest, real person, there's mix-ups on the font on the back.
Oh
There's
no.
there's some like typos. I'll get that fixed though. That's not huge. Anyway, so I think that's gonna wrap up this launch live. Links to find Cat are in the description below, as well as where you can buy a copy for the 50,000th time. And go find these authors and follow them and support what they do. They're all good people. Everybody's just insanely creative, and we couldn't be more proud to be able to work with them. So I think that's all I have for this one. So hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend when it finally gets here, and we'll see you in the next one.